a real high-tech map here colored in with a colored pencil. As those of you all who heard me at the fiscal court meeting know, I'm real worried about the water. So I just wanted to show you where the karst areas are. Here's our sinkhole springs, underground streams, caves. Here it is in Nelson County in red. And here's where they're proposing to go through. It's as though they said, let's pick where it's most dangerous. Let's pick where maybe the kite will break. In relation to the dilemmas that are before us, Mary Cunningham says the worst thing we can do is act helpless, hopeless, or clueless. So we need to begin by educating ourselves about NGLs, the proposed Bluegrass pipeline, and its expected impact on the land, the water, and people in the short and long term. And that's why we're here tonight. Only in an atmosphere of information and dialogue with neighbors can we really make good decisions about things like this. Very complex. Natural gas liquids, or NGLs, are expensive to handle, store, transport, compared to other refined products. They're more prone to leak and to rupture than other kinds of pipelines. There are 1 in 6/10 incidents a day in this country with NGL pipelines. They require high pressure and low temperature to maintain their liquid state for shipment. NGLs are classified as hazardous liquids by the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, and for good reason. The Bluegrass pipeline proposes to start at 8 4/10 million gallons per day. That's 200,000 barrels. And if they're going to increase that, hopefully, they think, to 16 8/10 million gallons per day. That's a huge volume they're wanting to send through our county. We have never had NGLs through our county before. Never. The proposed pipeline carries enormous risks such as water contamination. Kentucky is 55% underlain with karst. Sinkholes, springs, caves. We're one of the most famous karst areas in the world. A large amount of our prime farmland has karst underneath it. Jim Cobb, Kentucky state geologist, says that NGLs leak into a sinkhole or a spring, the karst system could take centuries to be cleaned up. Centuries. A collapse in the system, such as a sinkhole forming, could very well cause leaks or ruptures that would allow natural gas liquids to get into our groundwater. And that's because if you've got your pipeline going through here and it's on sturdy ground, they think, as they bury it 300, and all of a sudden, kaboom, right out the bottom. We've all seen it happen on our farms. One day you're walking across the pasture, you're walking across the next day, whoo, you got a big hole there. What's going to happen if that kaboom happens right under a seam? That's not going to be real sturdy. An engineer stated special attention should be paid to pipeline routing in karst areas, as cleanup and remediation is essentially impossible. Trying to find out about how contamination in water spreads, I went to talk to the people at the Kentucky Geological Survey. They have all kinds of maps and sinkhole maps. They have maps that try to show all the large sinkholes in the state, and I mean, there are a lot of them. Now, at the Kentucky Geological Survey, they have 40 or 50 geologists, and they're all specialists. Just like we have doctors that are specialists, they're specialists in geology. And the two main ones there that study hydrology and karst are Jim Cobb, the director, and Jim Currens. And Jim Currens is now studying how contamination travels underground. He's going around the state right now and putting harmless red dye into sinkholes and figuring out how long it takes it to travel and where does it go. How far does it take it to get from place to place? Turns out He says it doesn't take very long. According to a June 2013 Kentucky Department for Environmental Protection document, the Division of Water, this is directly from that document in June. Karst aquifers are especially sensitive to contamination. Areas underlain by karst hydrology can have rapid groundwater flow rate with complex routes. It goes on to say that in non-karst areas, the typical rate of groundwater speed is inches or feet per year. So in that solid bedrock that's got a little bit of porous area in it, the groundwater might move an inch or a foot. And if it's contaminated, an inch or a foot. But in karst in Kentucky, it has been measured to travel a half a mile in an hour. A half a mile in an hour. And that's been reported by these geologists here in Kentucky. Now you can see, there's our karst area, our major karst area. And that's, I got this from the website, so that's where, you know this line's jiggling a lot, don't you? It's kind of shifting around as we speak. But you can see they're planning to come right down. Now, when Mr. Fitzgerald said there wasn't any environmental study done ahead of time, well, yeah, I believe that, because I think if there had been one done, it wouldn't be marching down through karst country. A leak or rupture in an NGL pipeline in one part of our county could spread to another part of our county pretty fast. Pretty fast. So if it's going to go a half a mile in an hour, well, it could be down to the courthouse in no time, couldn't it? We've got a cave under the courthouse, you know that. Now, Jim Currens, the specialist at the Geological Society, he said, if you want compelling evidence of karst susceptibility to contamination, he said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go and find out about this 2 Mile Creek spill in Clark County in 2000. Then you'll understand. The rupture there, now this was oil, not NGLs. The rupture spilled around 700,000 gallons before the line was turned off. Tanker trucks came in there and hauled away 250,000 gallons of oil and contaminated water. Crews of 500 workers worked around the clock to keep the oil from moving further downstream. And Logan Weiler, with the Division of Emergency Management, said, boy, were we lucky, because the spill happened over a golf course and one farm. Not over tons of farms, but over a golf course. It was single-digit weather. The ground was frozen. The creek wasn't moving. He said if it had been anything other than that, it would have been a worse disaster than it was. Now, in 2008, the same pipeline ruptured again. Jim Cobb sums it up. He says subsurface contaminants can travel a long way, very fast, in a karst system. Why would we put our water at risk? Surveyors are putting red flags up really close to springs, as Amy told us. And the surveyor says, don't worry about it. On my dad's side of the family, Samuel Ross came from Virginia to the Cumberland Gap before Kentucky was a state. On my mom's side of the family, the Elders, Spaldings, and Clarks, Catholics from Maryland, Pennsylvania Quakers, Nathaniel Cartmel, they came to Nelson County before Kentucky was a state. And at Cox's Creek, there where my mom's family settled, there's a beautiful spring. And it was there when these people came into Nelson County. And when our grandchildren were born, we dipped water from that spring and we carried it to the baptismal font in the church. And they were baptized and put the water on their sweet little heads from that spring that was used by my ancestors. I would hate to see it ruined. And it could be, even if it doesn't go through our property. It could come from somewhere else. As Amy said, someone has told me the same thing, Amy. This deal is between the landowner and the pipeline people. Nothing could be further from the truth. These decisions will affect every one of us. The ground and good clean water is how farmers make their living in this county. Our ancestors did not sacrifice and struggle so that we could then endanger the land and the water. Take a long-term view. What we love, we must protect. We must protect our grandchildren and their children. We must protect our water, and we must protect our land. Now, Stop the Bluegrass Pipeline has a lot of places you can get information from. There's plenty of these back there. If you want to take more than one and give it to your neighbors, just do that. Short-term gain can lead to long-term consequences.